Welcome, Smyth Jetta builders. This video is on the B pillars. It's probably the most frustrating part of building a Mark 5 Jetta. So this first part of the video is very specific to the Mark 5 because of the boron steel in the frame. The Mark 4 doesn't have it, and obviously the other kits don't have it either. The boron steel is a butt kicker. And as you can see, I did already put the B-pillar braces in. I wish I would have videoed it a little bit yesterday. It took me the better part of the day to put these two in. It's a lot of drilling, and if you mess up, it gets worse and worse. So, the first tip is fresh drill bits. If you are finding it's not biting, stop and just spend the money for a new bit. Mark gives you 3 or 4 bits with the kit, along with a little baggie of goop that is basically a cutting fluid. Now, I use my own. I like this stuff. I got a big bottle of it. It's called Anchor Lube. There's a million different ways to go, and honestly, what you're trying to achieve with the cutting lube or the cutting paste or the tap paste, it's a bunch of different names, and I'm sure there's slightly different formulas, but really what you're trying to do is dissipate heat. That's the key. So I wouldn't get too caught up in this paste or that paste. I really don't think it makes a difference. I've used 3 different types of stuff, and I didn't notice any difference in the cutting. Really, the key thing is fresh bits, and you may go through a few. The previous Mark 5 I built, I don't know, I was having a great day. 1 drill bit and a little bit of paste, and I got all the way through it. That was fantastic. I was dreading that day of drilling these B pillars because it's a big bit. Now, I will say, I'll add, don't hurry. Do one of them one day and another one the next day. To be honest with you, I'm muscles physically sore today from muscling that drill on to get the pressure that I needed to cut into the boron. And towards the end of the day, I was getting sloppy, I was getting worse, and that just makes things, it's an exponential curve. It gets worse and worse and worse. So what happens when you drill too fast, don't have enough pressure, or have a dull drill bit? Any of those 3, it actually hardens the surface of the boron, mostly from that temp, because it gets really hot right at the tip of the bit. And then it's doubly hard to drill through it. And sometimes you just can't get it then. So what do? Well, you drill another one right next to it. And you go maybe a ½ inch away or something and just go again. So as I was saying yesterday, at the end of the day, I burned several and had to double. And I don't like doing that. It sucks. It's not professional. So if you start getting tired, put it up for the day. Go do something else. Go watch your show on TV, what have you. Have a beer, have a soda, have a coffee, whatever. So don't be in a rush. Fresh drill bits, don't be in a rush. The key that we're trying to do, using lube and going slow, is to keep from building that heat up right at the tip of the drill. So how do you do it? Well, I agree with the Smyth Performance build manual. As you can see, I've got this one clamped in place. It's bolted, but so you can see where the clamps are. The hard part is down here. I've got these Harbor Freight big old long clamps. I've got 4 of these, and I use them all the time. Now, if you're just building one, you don't want to go buy some clamps just for that. Get creative with your clamping, because you've got to get it clamped in place, and once you start drilling, you don't want that thing to move. Second bit, and I'm going to have to pan down here a little bit because it's not quite in. There we go. So I like to put speakers in, or a exhauster, a vent in this panel. and that gives you the ability to use the shorter clamps to get a couple more clamps in. So clamp the crap out of it, get it in place, double check before you start drilling that you have full overlap in the top and full overlap in the bottom. Well, all the way around. If you don't quite get it overlapped enough, or it scoots on you a little bit while you're drilling, that drill bit's going to want to come off the steel and go just through the aluminum, and now you've just buggered everything up. So make sure you got your overlap before you start. It's a bunch of techniques. You can drill out the aluminum piece first, clamp it in place, and mark it. You can clamp the aluminum piece on and just drill through the aluminum into the steel, through the boron steel, the final layer of steel on the inside. Or there's a multitude of combos you can do there. My preferred technique, and there are drawbacks to it, but my preferred technique is I clean all the burrs off of the aluminum panel as it comes from Smyth Performance. Don't drill it out. I clamp it in place, double check that I've got good overlap everywhere, and it really is only going to fit in one place. So you can start mocking everything up, but you really don't need to, because it's only going to fit in one place. And then I just go ahead and start drilling. Once I know I've got it clamped down in place, I go ahead and start drilling. Now, if you have Claycos, you can put Claycos in the ones that you get through, and that will help hold it in place. If you don't, you can just stick a rivet in it and not pop it, or you can stick a number 10, like a 1032 or a 1024 through there just to help you hold it in place while you're drilling, because the aluminum is softer, and of course it'll wiggle as you're really wailing on that steel. Now the layer of steel is actually a 3-layer piece. There's sheet metal, common mild steel on each side, sandwiched with that thick boron in the middle. So you'll start biting in, you're like, oh yeah, this is easy. And then you hit that boron in the middle, and then it bogs down. And that's where it's important not to hit that trigger on the drill and zzz, and then you burn that bit, you've hardened that spot, and you're basically starting over, in my opinion. I haven't found a great way, once you've hardened it, I'll go into this in a little bit, but I haven't found a great way of how to fix that other than just going ahead and drilling another one 1/2 inch away. Once I get all the holes drilled, I unclamp it, take it off, and I clean all those burrs off. I put sealant in there, and then I mush it on and pop my rivets, and I like to do a few 1032 bolts, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So I don't start riveting it, actually popping the rivets as I go, because there's so much metal shavings that you get from drilling, and I really don't want that in the middle of the sandwich that we're making. So that's my personal technique of how I do it. Take it with a grain of salt. I believe Mark does it the same way, so it must be pretty good if both of us do it. If you got a better idea, by all means put it in the comments, and we'll share that information with everyone else. So that's the technique. If you did end up burning one of the holes, and as I mentioned, I burned a couple yesterday and just couldn't get the 3/16 bit through there. One thing that sometimes works is to downsize your drill bit a little bit so that you're not trying to cut so much surface area at the same time. I like to use a 5/32 because I am really wailing on that drill while I'm drilling. And anything smaller than that, you run the risk of snapping the bit because I'm really leaning into it. So that's how I picked the 5/32. That's the smallest bit that I'm comfortable with, that I won't snap it as I'm really leaning into it. The kit comes with 3 or 4 drill bits. You very well may go through all those. Like I said, I did it once with 1 bit and I couldn't believe it. I thought, what's everybody talking about? It's not that hard. But yesterday I burned up 5 bits. So, you may or you may not. So be prepared to go buy some bits. I would recommend titanium bits. I'm not going to put out a brand name because I don't think it's that consistent, but the titanium bits do seem to last a little bit longer and dissipate heat better than the cobalt or the high-speed steel ones. Okay, what drill do I use? I've got a mess of different drills. Majority of what I build on a car, I'm using the cordless. But on this, my favorite drill is, I believe this is a 1/2-inch chuck. The key thing is that it's very easy for me to control the speed of it. It's a variable. This one does not have a lockout. I do have a bigger drill that has a lockout speed on it, which is very handy because you can set it and then you won't ever overspeed it and burn it. But this one is so much more comfortable for when I'm pushing. So when you're picking the drill, think about being able to hold the right speed and also how comfortable it is really wailing on it and pushing. I have a little pneumatic drill and I love this thing for anything else, but not this, simply because it's a very sensitive trigger. And I'll show you what I'm talking about, and hopefully you can hear through the video. So it's a variable trigger, and that's probably too fast. But the next, I mean, if you sneeze, that thing it goes. So I don't use this one because it's too easy to mess up, and then you've burned the bit and you've hardened the spot, and life is a bum. So my favorite drill for this one is a good variable speed. I'm very happy with the DeWalt, but I'm not promoting DeWalt as a DeWalt. It's just one that I bought. It's a tough drill. I like it, but it's the trigger that I'm really happy with, and the comfort of being able, I can push all different ways. You're gonna be switching up the way you're pushing. You might do this one time, and you might do this another time, and you might switch hands, vary it up so you don't get too sore. I'm having trouble lifting this drill today. I'm so sore from yesterday. Okay, so that's the drill I like. One last thing, and it doesn't really matter on the drill, but you may clip this little bit here as it finally goes through, and the chuck may make contact here. Now it all gets covered, so it doesn't matter. So if you do cut it up a little bit, put some paint on it so it doesn't rust, nobody's ever gonna see it. But if you have a keyed chuck, it has those big teeth, and that will eat it up. It has more teeth than I do. No more comments about my missing tooth. I have an appointment to get that fixed. If you have that keyless or a keyed chuck, for example, this one, right? If I made contact there, that would bugger it up pretty good. You can see I've made contact on this a few times, but it doesn't burn it up too bad. Put a little paint on it, everybody's happy. Be careful that you don't break the bit. You can listen to the sound as you're drilling, and you can hear when you have gotten through the boron and you're starting to that last little bit of steel on the inside, and that's when you let off your pressure so you don't go, oh, and snap that bit. Okay, just something to watch out for. All right, let me get those clamps off and we can zoom in here a little bit. So I got the clamps off. I'm gonna go ahead and drill one down here at the bottom. So hopefully the video will pick up the speed of the drill and you can see how much pressure. And if you look at my body, you'll see that I'm really braced behind me and I'm really pushing in. Just be ready to let off. Let me see if I can get the speed that I'm shooting for. Now keep in mind, as you load the bit, the drill is gonna slow down. And that's okay. You can kind of regulate your speed a little bit with your tension, or your pressure rather, but you want that pressure on. And I'm really shooting for, well, let's put it in forward first. That's about the speed that I'm drilling. I'm not gonna go, that'll burn your bit up real quick. So probably about like that. Now as I put load on it, I'm increasing trigger pressure, and I'm just grabbing it with my pinky and my second finger there so I can get lots of force behind it, because I'm not trying to over exaggerate it, but it's a lot of force. Really the way to do this would be have a portable drill press that you clamp on. That would really be the way to do it. I don't have one. I don't know if you do, but I kind of doubt it. Most of you probably don't. So that's about what I'm shooting for. So let me go ahead and drill that one so you can see how it should go. Hopefully I don't mess this one up. I've got a drill bit that I've drilled maybe 3 or 4 holes with. So it should be pretty fresh. So let's go ahead and do that. So that's about how it should go. That one went pretty well. You could tell at the end, I kind of jerked into it. I wasn't listening for that change in speed, and it's actually a little bit of a bog down. When the drill really bogs down, you lighten up your pressure a little bit, but make sure you don't let that speed wrap up. And you could see that I kind of fell into it a little bit and punched the drill a little bit harder than I wanted to. Not too bad. Didn't damage anything, everything's okay. But you want to avoid that if you can. All right, so that about covers it for drilling the boron. If you've burned one up, you may be able to get through it with a smaller bit, go down to like a 5/32, fresh, clean bit, high pressure, slow RPMs, and lube to keep that tip cool. That's what I think is what makes this most tolerable. The good thing is you have this tied into that boron steel, and that makes it all really rigid, which is beautiful as a vehicle. So that's it for drilling the boron and bolting, riveting your B-pillar braces on. I hope that's helpful. I really didn't mean to make this so long, but I wanted to cover everything that I could. I'm not a metallurgist. I don't know everything about heating up of the boron and all that. I'm just doing the best that I can. If you know better, or if anybody has an idea what you can do that once you've heated it up and you can't get a drill bit to go through, by all means, please put it in the comments. We're all looking for ways to fix little problems like that. That would be great. Thanks for watching. Again, my tips are fresh drill bits. Don't be afraid to spend another 20 bucks. It will save you 2 days of work buying another 3 or 4 drill bits. If you burn a bit and then you try to drill again with it, you're gonna harden another spot on that boron, and you're just gonna make life miserable for yourself. Trust me. Any of the guys on the Facebook pages will agree. Buy the bits, use a fresh bit. It's a shame when you burn up a brand new bit, but throw it out. I hope this helps you. Good luck with your build, and I appreciate your support.